Hi, I'm Jennifer Sir with the Sewing Room in Alameda, California, and today I'm going to be mending a hot pink slip. So here we go. Here's the slip. It's not mine, just so you know. This, my daughter got at the thrift store to put in her DPOP shop. So she's Kat's Corner over on DPOP, so you might find it over there. Anyways, what I'm going to do today is mend some of the holes. So the side seams are kind of busted out, and some of them have been sort of mended on the inside. So I have some hand stitching that someone did to try to mend it. And there's a couple different ways we could mend this. The first one being just undo their stitches and then press it, re-stitch the seams, zigzag or serge the seams. But I think it might be worth it and an upgrade to the garment to actually maybe get rid of this serge seam on the inside and do a French seam. And really the only things that we will probably have to do to make that look nice is undo the original corrections and maybe even seam rip back the lace at the bottom. But even that I'm not too sure about. As soon as I undo everything, I'll know what to do better. So I've gone ahead and taken the side seams or the little corrections out. They were all hand stitched, so they came out lickety split. And I can see that the sides, everything will match up when I sew it, but it was really fraying quite a bit. And because this doesn't have to fit anyone in particular, I think we can just cut down the side seams and do a French seam. Now they were just completely overlocked from the top. So you can see the top is just overlocked on the inside to the bottom. So it wasn't like there was any hem that we had to undo or anything like that. So it'll be really simple. What I'll do is I will just go ahead and start cutting. So I'm gonna pull this back here, turn on my light, and I'm going to trim it just a smidge. Cut it as straight as I can. I want to get all of those fuzzy bits off. And then I'm cutting that overlocked edge right off. That's kind of my cut line. I'm going to do this on both sides. And then I'll go ahead and stitch it with a French seam. I'll trim. Now I'm getting ready to do my French seams on the side. I've turned it so that it's wrong sides facing each other. And what I'm doing is I'm starting by matching the side seams before I pin them. And I start at the bottom and the top, and then I pin in between. Because this is on the bias, if I start at the top and keep going, then one side may end up longer than the other, and I want them to be the same length in the end. And because it's bias, if they're actually slightly different, we can make it work because the fabric will stretch and give in the right places. So I'm pinning this. I got a pin at the bottom and a pin at the top edge, and I'm just pinning in between, making sure that the edges match up. After I'm pinned, I'm going to stitch it at a scant 1/4 inch. Then I'm going to trim that seam to 1/8 of an inch. And I'll press that seam open and on both sides after I sew and trim both of them. And then turn it inside out, press so that the seam is on the edge, and stitch at another scant 1/4 inch. I'm stitching the first side seam at a scant 1/4 inch, and I'm stitching from the bottom up because that's more stable for the side seam than stitching from the top down. Now I'm trimming the side seam so that it's just about 1/8 of an inch before we press it open and turn it to the inside and do our second row of stitching. So just very carefully trimming the seam allowance down to be about 1/8 of an inch. And I'll continue doing this on the other side as well. Now I'm pressing the seam open. It's a tiny little seam, and you have to be a little careful. Make sure you have your iron on a good setting. It's not too hot. So I get that side pressed, and the other side gets pressed. So I've trimmed the seam allowance, and now my seam is only about 1/8 of an inch big, and I started off with my fingers, just like that, with my fingers going in between, and then carefully and lightly press the seam open all the way up the side, just as I'm doing now. That's my iron telling me something, but I'm not entirely sure what it's telling me. I thought it did that when it was like going to sleep. It's funny. Okay. So once that seam has been pressed open, then we turn it back so it's inside out, and we press that seam so it's right on the edge of the fabric on both sides. Just like this. That way, it's easier to stitch the final row of our French seam. So you can see the seam is right on the edge and ready to get stitched. So I've started sewing the side seams now from the wrong side, so right sides are together. And I stitched again from the bottom up. And I'm doing a scant 1/4 inch. All the way up to the top. Okay, so to finish and to stabilize this garment, I am going to just tack the side seams to the, well, usually I tack them to the back, and I think I can still do that even though it's not matching up perfectly right there. I think I can still do it. It's not too bad, and I think it will stabilize everything. One of the things I can do if I can try is to try to sort of get it a little bit fussy, this fussy corner, to fold, either to fold down so it's hiding before I tack it on, so it looks a little bit more even. It's a little tricky to do from that direction. I might be able to do it better from this direction. It's kind of thick, so it's a little bit hard, but I'm trying to tuck that, the bit that's sort of standing out. I want to tuck that under so it doesn't show and poke out at the side. So I'm just doing a little straight stitch, securing everything to the back side, and I will repeat on the opposite side of the garment. But here you can see what the seam looks like. We look really close. It's tacked down, and on the inside, it's a French seam. So it's stabilized now with 2 rows of stitching. That means it's probably not going to come apart in the same way it did before. That's it for today. Thanks a lot for watching.